A week to escape, a fling to remember, a little romance to spice up her dull routine. Sojin figures that's all this trip is meant to be. No strings, no complications, just a sweet, temporary escape. That's what she keeps telling herself. But then there's this guy. He stares at her with a look that's far too knowing, like he's trying to solve a mystery. When he steps closer, his confidence is unnerving, the kind that makes people feel seen in a way they aren't used to. He leans in just close enough to make her heart trip over itself, and whispers something that makes her question everything she thought she understood about the universe. And suddenly, her dry, predictable life starts to feel a little less dry. And his life, the one he swears is empty of excitement, starts to hum with something new. Whatever this is between them, it's not going to stay simple for long. He steps into his room, glancing around. It's spotless, everything in its place. His host, hovering nearby, mentions tidying up at the last minute. He doesn't comment. His phone buzzes. The name on the screen pulls a groan out of him before he answers. Woo-jin, his assistant, starts talking immediately, clearly on edge. There's irritation in his voice, and maybe a little panic, like he's not sure what to do now that the man has decided to do something as wild as take a vacation. The man cuts him off mid-rant, barely holding back a laugh. His assistant is trying to make it sound like the company's survival depends on him, but it's obvious this is more about Woo-jin's stress than anything else. When Woo-jin points out how unheard of this is, the man teases him, saying he should be proud to be just as indispensable as the CEO himself. Woo-jin, unamused, snaps back that some thoughts are better left unsaid. The man doesn't bother arguing. He's too busy planning how to make the most of this open-ended trip. The CEO leans back in his chair, phone pressed to his ear, clearly enjoying the frustration pouring out from Woo-jin. His assistant sounds like he's about to lose it, ranting about workload, fairness, and CEOs who think vacations are a basic human right. The CEO just smirks and tells him to relax. That's why he pays him well, to keep things running during moments like this. He casually mentions he'll be back in a month, tops, and even throws in a buddy to soften the blow. Woo-jin, unimpressed, fires back, asking when he's ever been his buddy and if that means he finally gets his own vacation. The CEO laughs and says if Woo-jin thinks he's so capable, he should just take over as CEO. Before his assistant can get another word in, he hangs up, stretches out his arms, and glances out the window. The weather's perfect. It's been way too long since he's taken a proper break, and he intends to enjoy every second of it. Sojin sits in the airplane, staring blankly out the window. It's been a while since she's taken a trip. Too long, honestly. She feels like she's been stuck in one of those overly dramatic TV dramas where the heroine spends all her time suffering for no reason. A scarecrow, that's how she sees herself. A stiff, hollow shell just standing there while the world spins on. Her mind drifts back to that day. She's standing in his office, going over his schedule. It's late afternoon, and she lets him know he's finished with meetings for the day. He asks about lunch, and she reminds him that she's reserved a spot at a Korean restaurant for his meeting with his future son-in-law. He nods, satisfied. Miss Sarang walks in, all smiles and elegance. She greets her father, nods at Sojin, and the man beside her steps forward. He introduces himself with a polite smile, Oh Hyun-jae, the fiancé. Miss Sarang beams, turning to Sojin, and mentions this is the first time she's meeting her future brother-in-law. Sojin congratulates them on their engagement, trying to sound cheerful, and quickly excuses herself. It should have been just another moment in a long day. But it wasn't. He said it was his first time seeing her, the man she's worked beside for over a decade, someone who's been a constant presence in her life, looked right past her like she was nothing. And then, without a hint of warning, he walked away from her life, tossing out a few words that felt like a blade. Strangers. That's what they were now. Just like that. Since then, everything's gone downhill. She stumbles through her days, making mistake after mistake. People start noticing. One day, her boss calls her in, clearly concerned. The woman asks if everything's okay, pointing out that she's been unusually careless. Seo Hyun-jin apologizes, her voice hollow, but it's clear even to her that she's lost her grip. Later, she hands in her resignation. She thanks her boss for everything, but she can't keep pretending everything's fine. The woman insists this isn't why she called her into the office, but Sojin shakes her head. She can't do it anymore. She's crumbling, and every attempt to hold herself together feels like a losing battle. So here she is now, on a plane, running from everything. Her life, her past, and that unbearable ache in her chest. Maybe this escape will fix her, or maybe it won't. At this point, she doesn't even care. The CEO stretches, feeling the crisp air on his skin when his eyes catch a young woman stepping out of a cab. He freezes for a moment, surprised, and wonders who she is. Before he can make sense of it, she's walking toward him. He clears his throat and calls out to her. She smiles politely and greets him, asking if this is Sky Pension and if she can make a reservation. She's rattling off questions, and he stares at her, trying to process what's happening. Sky Pension? Oh, right. His assistant had mentioned something about him owning a guest house now, a private retreat, secluded, and apparently quiet enough to quietly shut down. Secretary Kim had assured him it was a solid investment. New building, well-designed interiors, perfect for some peace and quiet. The CEO had agreed, happy it was so empty. They'd even joked about treating Kim better for pulling it off. Looking at her now, he notes her vacation-ready outfit and realizes she still thinks this is a regular pension. All he'd need to do is tell her it's private property now. Then again, he owns the place, so maybe it doesn't matter. He nods and tells her he's the one in charge and that there are rooms available. She looks visibly relieved. He gestures for her to follow him and says he'll show her to one. He leads her upstairs and points to a spacious room. She steps inside, looking impressed, and comments on how big it is. He casually mentions there aren't any other guests and that he'll be staying on the first floor, so she should make herself at home. When she asks about the rate, he pauses. His mind starts racing. How much do these places charge? Is it peak season? He doesn't want to overcharge, but it can't be dirt cheap either. She calls his name, snapping him out of his thoughts. He asks how long she's planning to stay. She shrugs and says she hasn't decided yet. That buys him some time, so he tells her he'll give her a fair rate once he makes a quick call. She agrees, saying it's fine. He assures her it'll be a standard rate and not to worry. She thanks him, glancing around and thinking to herself how surprisingly busy the place seems. Once she's settled, he steps away and calls Secretary Kim, who picks up sounding suspicious. The CEO asks what the typical nightly rate is for a vacation rental during peak season. Kim immediately asks why he's asking that out of nowhere. The CEO waves it off, saying he's just taking a guess. Kim doesn't let it slide and demands to know what he's up to now. Ignoring him, the CEO asks about the caretaker's quarters and nearby helper accommodations that Kim mentioned during their last call. Kim sighs and reminds him that he already explained all of this. The CEO thanks him, hangs up, and leans back, chuckling to himself. This little detour in his peaceful retreat might turn out to be more entertaining than he expected. The CEO leans back on the porch, looking out at the quiet surroundings. He thinks this little twist in his vacation isn't bad. Having someone around is more fun than sitting here alone. After all, vacations are meant to be a bit lively. Sojin, meanwhile, is bombarded by messages from Jinju. She's scrolling through them, trying to decide what to say, when her phone starts ringing. She sighs and picks up, teasing Jinju for being so impatient. Jinju snaps back, claiming the silence aged her by 10 years, and that Sojin vanishing without a word is basically a criminal act. Sojin apologizes, explaining how chaotic everything was when she left. She barely managed to grab her bag before running out the door. Jinju asks where she's ended up, and when Sojin says Jeju Island, Jinju practically yells in disbelief. Sojin shrugs, saying she just needed to get out of Seoul, even if she'll have to go back eventually. Jinju hesitates before asking if there's still no word from that guy. Sojin's face hardens. Nothing. Not a single call, text, or even a pathetic excuse. Jinju fumes, calling him heartless and saying if she ever runs into him, he's done for. Seojin listens quietly, but her thoughts take a different turn. She isn't just blaming him. It's not like she was some perfect girlfriend either. She remembers moments where she fell short, like the night she told Hyun-jae to wait. He'd asked what was wrong, and she'd said she wasn't feeling well, one of those days. He'd sighed, said he could tell it wasn't about her health, but promised not to push. Instead, he'd suggested they just cuddle and sleep. She'd apologized and he'd brushed it off, but the guilt still lingers. The CEO sits on the porch, his mind wandering back to Sojin. Something about her seems heavy, like she's carrying a story she hasn't shared. He hopes it's nothing bad, but he's noticed she hasn't come out of her room much. She's so thin, he thinks she looks fragile, like someone who might shatter if the wind blows too hard. Later, Sojin finally ventures outside and heads to the beach. The sun feels warm on her skin, and she sighs, realizing it's been forever since she's been near the ocean. It's so peaceful, exactly what she needed. She's admiring the waves when her scarf flies off and lands in the water. She groans, muttering under her breath, and wades into the cold water to grab it. The CEO is watching from a distance when he notices her walking into the sea. Barefoot, shoes abandoned on the sand, she moves with purpose. He thinks to himself, a woman wading into the ocean like this? It feels like something out of a movie. Sojin's almost at her scarf when she feels someone grab her arm. She turns to see the CEO, looking half annoyed and half panicked. He tells her to get out of the water, but she shakes her head, pointing at her scarf. She tries to pull away, but he won't let go, telling her it's not worth it. She sighs and tells him to relax. She just needs a second. Before he can argue, she lunges forward and finally grabs the scarf. She turns to him triumphantly, only to see him stumble backward, clutching his foot. "What's wrong with you?" she asks, her brow furrowed. "My leg," he mutters, grimacing. She moves closer, her scarf now forgotten, and leans down to check. "What happened? Did you hurt yourself?" He tries to brush it off, but she's already calling for help, her voice carrying over the sound of the waves. She grabs his arm and tells him to hold on to her scarf, insisting he stop whining about his leg and focus. She pulls him toward the shore, encouraging him to put some effort in as they stumble through the cold water. When they finally reach the beach, she leans over to catch her breath and asks how his leg is. He says he's fine, and just as she's about to relax, he tells her she shouldn't be trying to die in front of him. Confused, she tells him her scarf just flew off, and she went to get it. She accuses him of overreacting, and when he realizes he misunderstood, he starts laughing along with her. He apologizes for the mix-up and suggests heading back since they both look like a mess. She notices how she ended up laughing without meaning to, and reminds herself she came here to relax alone, brushing past him as they walk. He mutters about only trying to help, and wonders if she had to be so dismissive. As they reach the pension, he comments that she seems guarded and wonders why she has a wall up. She asks if that's really how she comes across, and he says most people are warmer to someone like him. She shoots back that most people are also nicer to someone as attractive as her. When he asks why she came alone if she's so popular, she tells him the attention is exhausting. He nods and leaves her to it, but as he walks away, he finds himself annoyed. He can't figure out why she's getting under his skin or why it's bothering him so much that she brushed him off. Back in her room, she thinks about how refreshing the day has been, even with the chaos. Her stomach growls, and she debates what to eat for dinner when there's a knock at the door. It's him, asking if she's hungry. She admits she hasn't decided where to eat, and he says he knows a good spot. At the restaurant, she stares at the sizzling meat on the grill, realizing she's never done something this simple before. He catches her looking and jokes that his style must be distracting her, but she tells him to focus on not burning the food instead. She thanks him for the food, and he waves it off, telling her to enjoy. He watches her for a moment, noticing how her face lights up in front of a good meal. He fills her glass, and she nods in gratitude. Then he suggests they introduce themselves properly since they're sharing a meal. He says his name is Cha Joo-wan, and she tells him she's Seo-Hyun-jin. He grins and raises his glass, teasing her about being too guarded but saying even she should be able to handle a toast. She smirks, raises her glass, and clinks it with his. As the flames from the grill dance between them, she stares at them, lost in thought. He asks if she's up for some snacks with her drink, and she says yes without hesitation. He compliments her on how well she holds her alcohol, and she tells him it's a basic skill in her line of work. He studies her for a moment, his expression thoughtful, before saying she seems like someone carrying a story. He admits that's why he jumped to conclusions earlier at the beach. She lets out a small laugh, telling him he's right. She has plenty of stories, but coming to a place like this to end it all wasn't one of them. He asks if it's rude to ask about her story, and she shrugs, saying it's nothing special. She tells him about her ex, the man she spent over a decade with, who decided to marry someone else without so much as a goodbye. His face twists in disbelief, and he lets out a low whistle. He goes on a mini rant, calling her ex a loser with no loyalty or self-respect. He shakes his head, saying guys like that are an embarrassment. He tells her he figured she was too popular to deal with heartbreak alone, but there she is. She leans back in her seat, staring at her drink, and says maybe she's just so dull that her boyfriend got tired of her. But even so, life feels unexpectedly interesting now. She says it's ironic. It took a betrayal like this to make her want to look at herself. She admits it's her first time going anywhere alone, and though it was terrifying at first, it feels freeing now. She starts talking about wanting to do things she's never done before, and he asks what kind of things. Instead of answering, she leans forward and kisses him. It's quick but firm, leaving him momentarily stunned. When she pulls back, she smiles and says, "Things like that." Joo-wan stares at her, stunned. He asks her what that was, and Sojin calmly says it doesn't mean anything, she just wanted to try it. He raises an eyebrow and asks if she wanted to try a kiss. She smirks and tells him she wanted to do something daring, something that felt a little unreal. He leans back, crossing his arms, and says kissing a guy she just met is her idea of daring? She shrugs, saying if it sounds too wild, they could just call it an adventure. He scoffs and tells her what just happened doesn't even qualify as a real kiss, more like a peck or an accidental brush of lips. She watches him, amused, and thinks to herself that he seems like the type who's kissed plenty of women. She decides to poke the bear and says he must have quite the track record, right? He narrows his eyes, leans in, and says since she's keeping tabs, maybe he'll give her something worth counting. Before she can say anything, he kisses her, this time slower, deeper, and undeniably deliberate. When he pulls back, he smirks and says that's how adults kiss. Sojin leans closer, her voice low, and whispers in his ear that she wants to go further. His playful smirk fades, and his eyes search hers, looking for hesitation. He nods, taking her hand, and leads her back to the room. Inside, he stops and tells her that if she wants to stop, all she has to do is say so, and their little adventure will end right there. She shakes her head and says she doesn't want to stop. As things heat up, Sojin feels a strange mix of exhilaration and peace. It's not about revenge or anger toward Hyun-jae. There's something about Joo-wan, his wild energy, the way he jumped into the sea without hesitation, that makes her feel like it's okay to let go, even just for a moment. Later, as they lie together, he grins at her and says she's got a lot to answer for now. "Look at what you've made me do," he teases. "You're responsible for this." She laughs softly, rolling her eyes, but deep down, she feels lighter than she has in years. Meanwhile, Hyun-jae is setting up a table for two with Sarang. She watches curiously as he pulls out a small box and hands it to her. When she opens it, her eyes widen. It's a delicate necklace, sparkling under the dim lights. She gasps, calling it beautiful, and he smiles, wishing her a happy 150th day together. She hugs him tightly, saying how touched she is. They toast to their future, and Sarang tells him his effort was perfect. He beams, telling her he loves her. She says she loves him too, but just as the moment feels perfect, he slips and calls her Jin-ah. She freezes, pulling back to stare at him. "What did you just call me?" she demands. He tries to play dumb, but her tone sharpens, and he's suddenly not looking so confident anymore. Sojin decides she can't do it, tells him she's leaving. Hyun-jae asks why, but she says she can't stay with someone who doesn't even remember her name. He calls out her name and says it was a mistake, just a slip-up, that they came here to enjoy themselves. She tells him he ruined it on a rare good day and walks out. His friend walks in, seeing him sulking, and asks what's going on, where's his girlfriend? Hyun-jae says she left because he called her the wrong name while kissing. His friend laughs, calling him insane for sulking over a girl who dumped him. He asks Hyun-jae if he's sure he can handle someone like Sarang, that he'll have to treat her like a princess forever. Then he asks about Sojin, saying she was good to him, loyal, even if she had her struggles. Hyun-jae shrugs it off, not thinking about Sojin anymore, but his friend shakes his head. He says Hyun-jae deserves what he's getting for treating someone as good as Sojin poorly. But it's not too late. Hyun-jae insists it's fine that Sojin will come back when he calls. She's always been loyal to him. His friend curses at him and tells him he's delusional. Joo-wan watches Sojin from across the room, thinking about the impulsive night they shared. She's fascinating, mysterious, and he wants to know more about her. He hopes she had a good time, like he did. Sojin wakes up, feeling disoriented, recalling telling him she wanted to go further and how the night unfolded. She thinks to herself that she must have lost her mind. She remembers how her past intimacy with her ex felt more like an obligation, and at some point she stopped trying. But this time with Joo-wan, it was different. It felt real, and for the first time she did something just for herself. Sojin lies there, feeling more alive than she has in a while. Joo-wan stands at the door, eyes on her. He's curious about what she said but doesn't comment. When she asks why he didn't knock, he simply says he didn't want to wake her up. Then he teases her about confessing into his pillow. Sojin insists that's not the case and tells him to get lost so she can get dressed. He pushes her, calling her petty for not showing her face. She gives in and turns toward him, asking what's so great about her just woke up face. He tells her it's the puffy eyes. She snaps back, saying they're swollen from tears, clearly irritated. When he asks if he made her cry, she insists she just wants some space to freshen up, and he finally leaves her alone. After she gets up, feeling sore from the night before, she heads to the bathroom. There's a note on the mirror. Thought you might have sore muscles. Take a bath and relax. Hope you enjoyed last night. It catches her off guard, but in a good way. Growing up, Sojin was always guarded. She kept people at arm's length, using smiles to mask her boundaries. Even though people tried to get close, she never let them. Now with Joo-wan, she's starting to wonder why it feels different, why she's opening up to him so easily. Later, she compliments the breakfast service, teasing Joo-wan about forgetting his pension owner role. He insists she should just tell him what she wants next time, even offering to make her soup if her stomach isn't feeling great. She's content with just the warm soup. It's perfect. As she takes a bite, she's surprised by how good it is. She asks if he made it himself, and he downplays it, though he admits he made a whole pot. Noticing he's just watching her eat, she asks why he's not eating. He comments on how most women try to be dainty around him. She teases back, saying she doesn't want to be dainty, she just wants to be comfortable. He laughs and gives her more food, encouraging her to stay comfortable. Sojin asks if there's anywhere fun around, and Joo-wan eagerly suggests he take her there. She's not sure, but agrees to give it a try. They head to the beach. And while Joo-wan's out surfing, he challenges her to give it a go. She flat out refuses, saying she'd never do it. But after a bit of coaxing, she finally decides to try, albeit reluctantly. Joo-wan tells her to take it slow and lets go of the surfboard. She asks if she's doing it right, checking to see if he's still holding on, but when she turns, he's nowhere to be seen. She yells at him, frustrated, and he casually mentions she was doing so well on her own, so he let go. Seo-jin's not impressed, so she splashes water at him when he swims closer. She can't help but ask why he keeps teasing her, and he just smirks, calling her a trickster. She laughs and throws the same accusation back at him. Back in Seoul, Hyun-jae is pacing, remembering his conversation with his friend. He tries calling Sojin, but her phone is off. He gets anxious, wondering why she's making him worry like this. In a panic, he texts Jinju, asking if everything's okay with Sojin. The response is swift and blunt. Don't contact her again. Meanwhile, Sojin and Joo-wan are lost in their own world, making out in the bathroom, completely oblivious to everything else. The trip was supposed to be a personal getaway, a chance to reflect, but Sojin has ended up feeling freer than she's ever felt. With Joo-wan, it's like every day has become an adventure. They do whatever they want, whenever they want, and when they crave each other, they act on it without hesitation. It's an experience wrapped in the guise of a simple trip, yet it's giving her a kind of freedom she's never known before. But deep down, Sojin knows that once she leaves, everything will return to normal. She'll return to her life, and this place will become just a memory, one of those moments that fades as life moves forward. As she sits reading, her phone rings, and she's startled to hear Jinju's voice on the other end. Her friend's crying, and Sojin immediately asks what happened. Joo-wan walks back into the house, tossing his things to the side as he enters. He bets Sojin's been bored without him around, and the quiet feels strange. He notices the weather's about to change, and the thought of her alone makes him check if she's sleeping. He's right. She's sitting there with her phone, her attention divided between the call and the feeling that things are about to change, but she can't quite figure out how yet. Joo-wan walks into his room, but Sojin isn't there. He looks around, checking the other rooms, growing more anxious by the second. Where did she go? Sojin, meanwhile, rushes to meet Jinju, who's waiting with concern. Sojin reassures her, saying she's okay now, and they talk about her mom's surgery. Sojin's relieved to hear it wasn't too serious, and Jinju apologizes for worrying her. Sojin says she's just glad she called and came to be there for her. Back at the house, Joo-wan stands in silence, staring at Sojin's note. He reads it over again, unsure if it's real. Her message is brief but clear. Her friend's mom needed surgery, and Sojin had to leave unexpectedly. She also says this is the end of her time there, thanking him for everything. Joo-wan looks at the check she left, still unsure of what to make of it. Meanwhile, Sojin and Jinju chat, relieved that the surgery went well. Sojin reassures her friend not to worry about ruining the trip. They talk about how she looks better and had a chance to recharge. Sojin nods, agreeing that it was a great trip and that she was lucky. Jinju asks if something happened between Sojin and Hyun-jae, and Sojin admits that she told him to get lost, adding that he'll probably try to contact her again. Sojin plans to change her number, move, and get a new job, determined to leave the past behind. A week later, Secretary Kim reviews Sojin's resume, impressed by her experience at Shinju Corp. She's relieved and thankful, knowing it's time to take control of her future. The HR guy asks Sojin if she's okay with sharing why she left her last job. She hesitates, but he reassures her she doesn't have to answer if it's too personal. He's just curious. He tells her he's looking forward to working with her, and the HR team will be in touch soon. Sojin thanks him, nods, and leaves. Joo-wan walks in, casually asking if everything went well. The secretary says the interview was quick. Sojin just stepped out, and he missed her by a hair. He hands Joo-wan a file, the one for the person he'll be working with, and Joo-wan laughs, clearly amused. "So, Yoon Sojin's here now," he says, a grin creeping onto his face. "She's coming to me on her own." Flashback hits Joo-wan. It's been a week since she left, and now another week has passed. He hasn't been able to stop thinking about her. His vacation feels like a joke. He's alone again, and it's not working. He has to find her. He can't just let it go. His mind races as he calls Secretary Kim, telling him he's heading back to Seoul. The vacation's over. Secretary Kim comments that the break seems to have done him good. Joo-wan tries to shrug it off, but he's frustrated. It was great, yeah, more than enough, but it just vanished, like a midsummer night's dream. Secretary Kim laughs, wondering what he means by that. "It's one of those things," Joo-wan mutters. "Did you handle the interview? The resume?" Secretary Kim says it was quick, and Sojin just left, handing him the file for his new hire. Joo-wan laughs, looking at the name on the file. "Hyun Sojin, she's coming to me, huh?" Secretary Kim asks how he knows her, and Joo-wan just shrugs. "It's complicated. When does she start?" Meanwhile, Sojin and Jinju are having their own conversation. Sojin's already found a place to live, though close to the hotel. She signed the lease, and everything seems to be falling into place smoothly. Jinju's relieved, thinking everything's going according to plan. Sojin agrees, feeling good about the next chapter. She thanks her for letting her crash at her place until she found somewhere, and Jinju smiles, happy to help. A week has passed since Sojin left, and she's still wondering if Joo-wan's doing all right. She thought walking away would be easy, but those few days they spent together keep replaying in her mind. It's not just the freedom she misses, but maybe the warmth of his presence too. It's strange how quickly the memories feel like they're slipping away, but maybe leaving that behind was for the best. Now, back in her old life, she feels more like herself again. though something still feels missing. Her manager, always thoughtful, finally gets the chance to thank her over a meal, apologizing for not being able to say goodbye properly. The meal makes him feel better, but Sojin insists he didn't have to worry so much. One of her colleagues says they were all sad when she left, but adds that Sojin looks a lot happier now. Sojin brushes it off, chalking it up to the rest and good food she's had. Her colleague excitedly mentions a gift she got for Sojin, saying she'll be right back to grab it. Sojin says it's too much, but the colleague insists. As Sojin waits, she doesn't notice Hyun-jae approaching. When he calls out to her, he doesn't waste time. He's clearly been trying to get in touch, saying he's been worried about her, but she's not sure what to make of it. He starts talking about why he did what he did before, but Sojin's not buying it. When he mentions they never officially broke up, she just shakes her head. It's not adding up. Then, he grabs her arm to make a point, but she pulls away, not wanting to hear any of it. His apology comes too late, especially after all the mixed signals. Before she can respond, her colleague returns, handing her the gift with an apology for the delay. Sojin thanks her and says it's too much, but she appreciates it. After a few more kind words, the colleague leaves, and Sojin's attention shifts back to Hyun-jae, who's still trying to explain. He insists he never broke up with her, that his plans with Han Sarang aren't set in stone yet. Sojin's heard enough. Jinju's words ring in her head, and she's done with the back and forth. Hyun-jae's not okay, and Sojin can feel it. She knows they shouldn't cross paths again. When he asks how she could say that, she doesn't even know where to start. Just then, Sarang walks by, greeting both of them. She's all smiles, acting like everything's fine, but Sojin doesn't even want to entertain it. Sarang mentions hearing Sojin's leaving the company, and Sojin confirms, her tone colder than usual. Sarang's not surprised, saying that's just how things go sometimes, especially after working with her father for so long. Then, Sarang casually asks if Sojin will attend their wedding, and Sojin just looks at her, trying not to roll her eyes. She's got better things to do. She says she has another engagement, and with that, she walks away, leaving Sarang standing there. Sojin's mind wanders, and she can't help but think about the odd coincidence of their names, with Sojin's having Jin in it too. She shakes the thought off, focusing on her next steps. Back at her new place, she's juggling the chaos of moving. The box slips from her hands, and Jinju walks in, teasing her about handling all of this on her own. Sojin tells her she's got it under control, but thanks her for coming. Chanwoo follows in, giving his congrats too. Sojin's grateful for the support, saying she'd be lost without them. Jinju laughs and says moving's no joke, and Chanwoo's stomach growls, so he suggests they take a break and eat. Sojin mentions that she starts work next Monday, and Chanwoo says it's a fresh start, new job, new place, new everything. She tells them she even got a new number, and they all raise a glass to that, toasting to her new beginnings. The next day, Sojin walks to work, feeling good about everything. She had a weirdly good dream about a pearl, and she can't shake the feeling that it's a sign of good luck. She's almost giddy and wonders if she should buy a lottery ticket with all this positivity floating around. Walking into the office, she's greeted by Secretary Kim, who shows her to her new desk. She thanks him, excited to start this chapter of her life. Sojin walks in, feeling the weight of the moment. Secretary Kim introduces her to the team and asks if she's ready to meet the president. She's a little nervous but nods and follows him down the hallway. When they reach the president's office, Secretary Kim calls out for attention and Sojin steps inside, heart racing. She's surprised when she sees him. It's Joo-wan. He's standing there as calm and collected as ever, and all Sojin can think is, "What the hell?" She stutters out a greeting, still trying to wrap her head around the fact that he's the president of the hotel. Her mind starts racing as she tries to process everything, wondering if he'd been hiding his identity from her all along. Joo-wan seems completely unbothered by this situation. He casually asks her if she's all right, but Sojin's brain is too overloaded to respond clearly. She's just trying to keep it together. Secretary Kim, not missing a beat, excuses himself and leaves them alone. Joo-wan tells her to have some tea while she works, but Sojin's too busy trying to make sense of everything. She asks if he's really running both the hotel and Sky Pension, still trying to piece it together. Joo-wan admits that the pension went under and he bought the land after it shut down. Then, with a smirk, he tells her she showed up at the hotel with the wrong information, and as fate would have it, they ran into each other. Sojin's mind is spinning. Did he deceive her? Was all of this a setup? Joo-wan apologizes, but the situation was complicated, and they never had the time to discuss things properly. He goes on to ask if she was planning on avoiding him forever. He wonders if she'd just leave without any way of contacting her, leaving a note and some money as her only farewell. Sojin tries to explain, but he cuts her off, his tone a little harsher now. He doesn't hide his frustration, accusing her of running away again. He figures she wants to keep their time together as just a pleasant memory without the possibility of anything else. He's convinced that's how she sees it, but Sojin, feeling the pressure, tries to justify herself. Joo-wan, though, isn't letting it go. He throws out a sharp remark about her irresponsibility and warns that with her behavior, no company will hire her. She's taken aback, questioning what he means by that. Is he threatening her now? Joo-wan doesn't hesitate, confirming that yes, he is, and if she's smart, she'll stick around as his secretary. Sojin fires back, reminding him that he was the one who deceived her first. If she had known the truth, things would have been very different. Joo-wan, unfazed, tells her to stop overthinking it. They met, they spent time together, and there's no point in wondering about what could have been. Sojin tries to explain her side, but he's not interested in hearing it. For Joo-wan, it's simple. If she wants to work with him, she'll stay. If not, well, he has his ways of making things difficult. Joo-wan is frustrated, looking at Sojin like he can't believe she's acting like this. She's trying to move on, pretending he's just part of her past, but it's hard. Her head's a mess. She doesn't want to admit that he might still be tangled in her new start. She wants to forget him, but can't seem to. She tells herself she's over it, but deep down, she knows she isn't. She's meeting him now, like nothing ever happened. She introduces herself, pretending they're strangers. She wants to get out of there, but Joo-wan isn't having it. He insists that something about her feels familiar, like he knows her, like he's connected to her more than she's letting on. Sojin tries to push past him, but his presence is overwhelming. She walks out, leaving him there, confused and maybe a little hurt. Later, she checks her phone and tries to find Sky Pension. It doesn't show up, confirming that everything Joo-wan said was true. Secretary Kim calls, sensing something's off. He asks if she had trouble getting there or if Joo-wan upset her. She brushes it off, saying she's fine, but her mind is elsewhere. He presses her, asking if there's any history between her and Joo-wan. Sojin takes a deep breath. She admits they grew up together, were close, but things have changed. Secretary Kim seems to get it, mentioning how happy Joo-wan was when he found out she was interviewing. Sojin nods, trying to take it all in. I understand. Secretary Kim wants to understand the situation between Joo-wan and Sojin so he can figure out how to mediate. He's determined to hear her side before talking to Joo-wan. Sojin explains that after leaving her last job, she went on a trip to Jeju Island, and that's when she bumped into him. But before she can say more, Joo-wan's phone rings. He tells her to hold on a moment and answers, getting called into the president's office. He gives her a quick reassurance that it'll all work out, then leaves. Sojin wonders if she should start job hunting again. She had such a good feeling about this place, but now it all feels like a dream. Still, she refuses to back out. She's there to work, and besides, Joo-wan promised not to let her leave. Meanwhile, Joo-wan walks in, looking frustrated. Secretary Kim presses him for an explanation, but Joo-wan says it's a misunderstanding. Sojin thought he was the pension owner, so they spent a week together. Secretary Kim's confused, asking exactly what Joo-wan means. He insists that Sojin is downplaying their connection, but he's not willing to let it go that easily. Secretary Kim tries to calm him down, pointing out that Sojin asked for her employment to be canceled. Joo-wan snaps back that she won't be going anywhere. Instead, he orders that she accompany him on all his schedules. Secretary Kim looks surprised, asking if he's seriously planning to do that. Joo-wan then walks in with a new idea, suggesting a team dinner since they've got a new team member. He asks Sojin to choose the menu, and she looks confused. He jokes about something simple like grilled meat, but not burnt, reminding her that she told him not to burn it last time. Secretary Kim is told to make the reservation, and the staff is shocked since it's the first time the president has ever suggested a dinner. Prosody. They joke about getting closer to him personally, but he quickly tells them to get back to work. At the dinner, Joo-wan hands out the drinks and encourages them to eat a lot, insisting the bill's on him. As the drinks flow, one of his staff holds Sojin's glass, and his friend nudges her to drink up. Joo-wan watches, clearly feeling the tension. Secretary Kim tells Joo-wan to walk properly, but he says he is. Then he suddenly asks Sojin to watch over him for a bit while he runs to the convenience store. She agrees, getting in the car. As they're parked, Joo-wan sighs, asking her if she's left. He calls her complicated, frustrated by how she keeps pulling away. He's really trying to make it work, but he's not sure how long she's going to keep pretending she doesn't know him. Sojin feels like the day is dragging on forever when her phone rings. It's Jin-ju, and she sounds cheerful, asking where Sojin is. When Sojin answers she's just started her first day of work, Jin-ju insists they need to celebrate. Then she drops the bombshell, asking if the owner of the pension is really the president of the hotel Sojin's just joined. Sojin can't believe how complicated everything's gotten and admits it's true, but wonders how it all became so tangled. Jin-ju doesn't miss a beat, teasing that maybe it's not such a mess after all. It could be the start of a new romance. Sojin scoffs, asking if Jin-ju's lost her mind. She's talking about the president, her boss, not some random guy. But Jin-ju's not backing down. She insists there's clearly something going on between them. Who cares if he's the president now? Hasn't he been showing interest? Sojin brushes it off, saying all she did was want to ignore it, but he got mad when she did. Jin-ju encourages her to widen her perspective. Does the fact that he's her boss really mean she can't date him? Sojin, frustrated, says she's done with dating. Her last breakup wasn't that long ago, and she remembers what Joo-wan said in the car. She tells herself she just needs to stay away from him as much as possible. Meanwhile, Joo-wan's messing around with Secretary Kim, telling him to focus on work. Kim gives him a hard time, calling him a punk. Joo-wan's not having it, warning him not to disrespect his president. Kim responds by saying if he keeps this up, Joo-wan's going to burn himself out. Joo-wan smirks, telling him not to worry. Kim asks if he's really sober or just pretending to lean on him for support like that. Joo-wan laughs, saying he could use a beer. Kim obliges and gets them both one. As they crack open the beers, Kim asks what Joo-wan's planning to do about Sojin. Joo-wan shrugs and says he's not really sure, but he just wants to stay close to her, see her all the time, and maybe, just maybe, have her be nice to him. Kim scoffs, pointing out that Joo-wan's definitely acting like someone who's serious about her. Joo-wan brushes it off, asking if it matters. Of course it matters, Kim retorts, pointing out how Joo-wan's completely losing it over her. He hasn't seen him this crazy since high school. He even remembers the chaos when Joo-wan was turning the whole place upside down, looking for his first love. The whole thing still gives him chills. Joo-wan just laughs, saying that's why he's lucky to have Kim by his side. Kim's response? Get lost. Seo-jin promised herself she'd avoid getting too close to her boss, but somehow, things just keep getting messier. Kim tells her that starting today, she's going to be tagging along with Joo-wan on his schedule. She's taken aback and asks why. She didn't think it would come to this. Joo-wan shows up, greets his friend, and she does the same. He tells her to sit next to him and casually asks if she has a driver's license. She says she does, and he casually adds that she should learn everything Kim's doing because she'll be taking over soon. Sojin just nods, wondering if she's really going to be okay with this. It's another late night at work, and she's stuck doing escort duties that aren't even part of her job description. She hasn't even finished her actual tasks, and now, on top of everything, she's working overtime. As if that's not enough, she's starving. Maybe she can grab something to eat on the way. She's eating outside when Joo-wan spots her. He stops and wonders if she's still out there. She feels tipsy already and wonders why. Maybe it's just the exhaustion, but she can't stop. Joo-wan walks up to her, his brow furrowed, and asks if she's drunk. She responds that she is. He looks at her, then asks if she knows who she's talking to. Sojin smirks and says, "Someone I've shared a lot with." Then it clicks. She remembers the owner of Sky Pension. She looks at him a little confused and asks why he's there. Is she dreaming? Joo-wan gives her a sideways glance and asks why her memory is like that. Shouldn't she remember the most recent things? She sighs, feeling guilty, and apologizes for leaving so suddenly last time without even saying goodbye. Joo-wan asks if she missed him. She doesn't answer right away. Then, almost impulsively, she kisses him. The kiss feels so real, and she can't help herself. He pulls away, his voice low, asking what he's supposed to do with her. He kisses her back, chuckling, "You made the first move again." Sojin wakes up the next morning, surprised to find herself lying next to him. Her mind's racing. Was that a dream? Joo-wan teases her, saying if she's trying to tempt him, he won't hold back either. She shakes her head, telling herself it's not a dream. She gets up, feeling a bit embarrassed, and apologizes. "Why am I still here?" she asks. He says he found her wandering on the street. She doesn't remember anything, though. She recalls telling him she wanted one more drink and asking for flowers. He laughs, teasing her about never having seen flowers before. He says they should go. She needs a cup of tea before she leaves. But Sojin knows if he asked her to stay, she probably wouldn't. She can still feel the kiss, the heat of it lingering in her mind. Downstairs, she tells him she'll make the coffee. But he insists, telling her to sit down while he takes care of it. Our girl hesitates for a moment, but then sits down. She wonders what she's even doing here, how things got so complicated. She sits there, wondering why he's acting so distant. He feels like a stranger now, as if the warmth they shared yesterday was just some illusion. She thanks him, but wonders if he's angry because of how she acted yesterday. He suddenly brings up her time at the hotel, asking how long it's been, and when she answers, he apologizes for being self-centered. He says she can leave if she wants, that it's up to her. She's confused. Why is he saying this now? It's like he's just pushing her away, and she feels like she's been dumped out of nowhere. She remembers the night before, the way he seemed so close, then all of a sudden, it's different. He's asking if she likes him, and when she replies that she doesn't, everything shifts. "I don't like you. You lied about being the owner of Sky Pension," she says, frustration bubbling up. "How could I trust you now?" He apologizes, but she can't believe him. If only things had been different, if we hadn't met like this. He asks if there's no room for forgiveness, but she just shakes her head. "I'm broken. I can't even take care of myself, let alone fix what's between us." She remembers the day he carried her, telling her to eat better, the way he made her feel light, like she could float away. She thinks about her dad, how she misses him, and the promise she made to be happy. She comes back to the present, asking herself what's next for them. Secretary Kim announces that the 15th anniversary party for Sinju Trading will be hosted at the hotel, and Sojin wonders why it has to be at their place. As the meeting wraps up, one of her coworkers points out that Sinju Trading is her old company, and Sojin sighs, saying they're depending on her. She doesn't think she'll be much help, though. As soon as she steps away, her phone buzzes. It's a message from a former colleague. It's about the anniversary event, and they'll be seeing each other soon. "I'm counting on you," the message reads. Sojin wonders why it feels like everyone's texting her about this. Her old colleagues and her new ones are all counting on her to make it work. She tries to push the worries away. Nothing big will happen, right? She tells herself not to overthink it. A few weeks later, Sojin knocks on Joo-wan's office door. He tells her to come in. She asks if he called her, and he directs the others out. He motions for her to come closer and holds up 2 ties, asking her which one she likes more. She looks them over and says they both look good. But since it's someone else's event, maybe it's best not to steal the spotlight. She figures the experts would know better than her, but he insists he trusts her choice. She suggests the plain one, thinking his sharp features might work better with something simpler. He raises an eyebrow and asks what else she thinks about his face. Sojin flusters and apologizes. She tries to keep her mouth shut as she ties his tie, thinking to herself that her mouth always runs away with her. He asks if she's nervous. She shakes her head, saying nerves won't help anything. He mentions hearing that she put a lot of effort into planning the anniversary. It's got to be perfect, right? Sojin agrees but admits she's feeling a little bit nervous after all. Hyun-jae remembers the dinner with Sarang, where she told him Sojin had run into her in front of the company and mentioned how good she was at her job. He thinks about her ending up at the Royal Hotel, maybe even in the executive secretary's office. Sarang asks what he's looking for, but he brushes it off, saying he's just a bit nervous. She teases him, saying he's handsome and all hers. He laughs it off and spots Sojin in the crowd, watching her closely. Joo-wan steps up to speak, mentioning how honored he is to host the Sinju Trading 15th anniversary celebration at the hotel. The host announces the start of the celebration, and everyone begins taking their seats. Hyun-jae excuses himself, telling Sarang he'll be right back, and walks towards Sojin. He grabs her arm, dragging her away from the crowd while Joo-wan observes from a distance. Sojin tries to pull away, demanding to know why he's still chasing her. He says it's clear they didn't break up and insists that hiding from him won't work. He tells her if she can't give him what he needs, he'll just get it from someone else. As they're talking, someone hits him from behind. Joo-wan steps forward and asks if it's Sojin's ex. Hyun-jae can't believe what's going on. Sojin looks at the president, totally confused, and asks what he's doing there. He steps up, defending her, telling Joo-wan to stay out of his employees' personal business. He calls Joo-wan a thug, throwing punches out of nowhere. Joo-wan, not backing down, says he's not just a boss or a thug. He's got a personal interest in Sojin. Hyun-jae isn't having it. He asks Sojin if she's found someone new already, and she snaps at him to watch his mouth. The two guys start going at it, blows flying. Sojin stands there, unsure of what to do. Meanwhile, Sarang's growing more impatient. Hyun-jae promised he'd be right back, so she heads off to find him. She spots a crowd and asks what's going on. When she sees Sojin telling Joo-wan to stop, she knows something's off. She rushes over and calls out to Hyun-jae. Sarang looks at Hyun-jae and asks if he's okay, worried about how he's moving. He insists he's fine, but she's not letting him get away with it. She's not about to let him just brush it off. She insists they go to the hospital. Secretary Kim checks in with Joo-wan, who says he's fine. He asks if the office has a first aid kit, and when Kim asks if he's sure he doesn't need to go to the hospital, Joo-wan brushes it off, telling Sojin to follow him to his office. Sarang's still concerned, asking Hyun-jae if he wants an ambulance or a taxi. He's adamant he'll go alone. She asks how he expects to manage on his own, especially in the state he's in. He tries to explain it's a big day for her dad, so she should stay and let everyone know something came up for him. Sarang's not letting it slide, though. She asks why he got into it with the president in the first place. Hyun-jae doesn't really explain, but she's upset, saying she'll let it go for now because he's hurt. Still, she points out that today was important for her dad, so why did he start all this? He apologizes, saying it's his fault, but asks if they can drop it for now. She pushes him, wondering if that's really how he talks to someone who's worried about him. And seriously, what was Sojin even doing there? Hyun-jae tells Sarang to hold up, asking if she really has to keep grilling him when he's clearly hurt. She snaps back, asking if he's really raising his voice at her right now. He tries to brush it off, saying they'll talk later, but he's heading out. Sarang watches as he storms off, asking herself if he's really going to leave like that, not even trying to explain things. Meanwhile, back at the office, Sojin and Joo-wan find themselves caught in a moment that changes everything. Their lips meet, and for a split second, everything else fades. Sojin realizes something in that moment. She wants him more than anything. Joo-wan pulls back for a second, asking if she's sure, if she won't regret it. She looks at him unflinching and says no. Then she asks him if he'll regret it, the way this relationship could play out. He looks at her, a smirk playing on his lips, and says if it means being tied to him, he'll welcome whatever comes next. They share a look that says everything without saying another word, as if daring fate to see how far this will really go. 30 minutes ago, Sojin tells him she'll help apply the medicine, and he turns to look at her. She feels like this is the worst situation she could be in, completely exposed, like she's hit rock bottom with him. He stares at her and asks if she doesn't have something to say. Maybe she's angry that he stepped in without asking. She demands to know why he did it, why he jumped in like that and used his fists. He asks if she's worried her ex got badly hurt because of him, if she would have preferred he let her go with the guy instead. She quickly says it's not about that and tells him to sit so she can take care of the wound. She starts cleaning his injuries and tells him to stay still, even if it hurts. She checks again to see if he's really sure he doesn't need to go to the hospital. He says something else is on his mind. She asks what. He wants to know what she's really feeling. Who is she worried about right now? What is she thinking about? And why does she feel so far away when she's sitting right next to him? She says it's just that he got hurt because of her, and he could have just ignored it all and walked away. The fact that he didn't makes her feel awful. He says that's good. She looks confused and asks, what's good about him being hurt? He says it means she cares about him, and if getting hurt or sick is what it takes for her to look at him like this, maybe he'll do it more often. She tells him that's ridiculous. He says she's finally smiling and asks if she knows she hasn't smiled at him since they met again in Seoul. She says no, employee goes around smiling at their boss. He asks if being her boss is really the problem, because it didn't matter back when she was running the guest house. She says the way he feels about her right now is just regret, because she left Jeju without saying goodbye or finishing what they started. She admits she's also attracted to him, but she's scared. She says she's afraid that acting on those feelings might ruin everything. Still, if he's okay with that, maybe they can try again, like before, just until they both know for sure what they want. He asks if she means something physical, if that's what she's talking about. She says it's not just that. He tells her not to backtrack later. They kiss, they grow closer, they're intimate. Sojin always sticks to a stable life and follows the same routine every day, like clockwork, so she's not used to surprises or new connections, which is why this moment feels special. She quietly wonders if a day will come when they clearly define what's between them. Later that night, they're lying on the bed when Joo-wan asks what's on her mind. She says she's thinking about whether it's okay to be doing this with her boss. He looks at her and says that after everything, she shouldn't tell him now that she regrets it. She laughs and says she's joking, reminding him she's the one who started it in the first place. They become close again. The next morning, Joo-wan lies beside her, watching her sleep peacefully when the doorbell rings. He gets up quietly and checks the door. It's a man from room service who greets him politely. Joo-wan tells him that today's breakfast should be a simple omelet and fruit juice for two, and asks him to knock lightly instead of ringing the bell from now on. The man nods and says he understands before leaving. Joo-wan glances back at the bed and wonders if she woke up, then looks at her and says she wouldn't notice even if he carried her. Later, Sojin slowly wakes up and sees that she's still in a hotel room. She remembers what happened the night before and chuckles softly. Just then, Joo-wan calls out to her, asking if she's awake. She replies that he should wait a minute. She'll be out soon. She looks around but realizes she has nothing to wear. She walks out wearing his shirt and asks if she can borrow it. He tosses the book he was reading aside. She asks what's wrong and if he doesn't want her wearing it. He says he has a better idea, picks her up in his arms and carries her. She asks what he's doing all of a sudden. He says they should shower together and he'll take good care of her. She tells him to put her down. He smiles and says he will, just not yet. Oh, Hyun-jae is sitting in his room, thinking about what happened at the party. He wonders what's going on with Joo-wan. He looks at a photo of himself with Sojin and hopes she's not really seeing him. He remembers the day they took that photo, how happy they were, and he doesn't understand how love can just disappear like that. Outside, Sarang is calling his phone. She stands in front of his house, hoping he'll pick up. Earlier, her father had asked if Hyun-jae had lost his mind and if he even knew where he was, pulling a stunt like that. He told her to call him immediately. Her mother told him to calm down or his blood pressure would shoot up. He said this was exactly why he told her not to get involved with someone who has no background or standing. But no, he let it go because she insisted Hyun-jae had a good personality. And now, of all days, this happens. He asked if she was even thinking straight. Sarang tried to explain that something came up last minute and that's why Hyun-jae left early. Her father asked what kind of excuse that was when people saw Hyun-jae and President Cha grabbing each other by the collar. That's what she's calling something that came up. He made it clear she's not marrying that guy. Back in the present, Sarang stands there with her phone in her hand, asking what Hyun-jae is planning to do about all this. Later that day, Sojin is sitting down. She looks tired and can't even lift a finger. She keeps remembering what happened earlier. Joo-wan walks in and tells her to stay still, that he'll take care of everything. She says it's a miracle she didn't pass out. He says she must be hungry and starts feeding her. He says she's eating well. She tells him to eat his own food and stop staring at her. Then the doorbell rings. She asks if he's expecting someone. He says he sent clothes out to laundry. It's probably that. He opens the door and sees Secretary Kim, who greets him. Joo-wan asks why he's here out of nowhere on a Saturday. Kim says that's funny coming from someone who didn't answer a single call. After everything, he just disappeared. He asks if Sojin is with him too. Joo-wan says he wasn't feeling well, so he came straight up to rest. He knows how things went down. A big fight broke out. Kim says, oh, so he even sent Sojin's clothes to the laundry with his. He pulls the clothes along and says, anyway, did Joo-wan really think he'd stay quiet just because he couldn't reach him? The great Kim Woo-jin showing up on a weekend isn't something that happens for no reason. He says the chairman heard about it and Joo-wan has been called in. Joo-wan says he's done for now and will deal with it after the weekend. Kim says he also came to see the situation for himself, and from the looks of it, Joo-wan seems to be having a good time. Joo-wan says if he understands that, he should leave. They're busy. Kim asks what's going on between him and Sojin. Is there something he should know? Joo-wan says they'll talk later. Sojin calls his name and he turns back to her, saying there was a small issue with the laundry, but it's been sorted. She says she's curious about something. He tells her to go ahead. She asks why he's staying at a hotel when he could easily stay somewhere better. He says it's convenient for managing things smoothly. He gets to experience the service himself and check in on the food whenever needed. She says that makes sense. He asks if she's all right because she looks like she's lost her appetite. She says she's just thinking. If she keeps staying there, people will start talking. He remembers what Kim said. She says for now they should just finish eating. Joo-wan asks if she's really going back already. It's Saturday. She says he didn't go home yesterday, so yes, she's heading back today. He asks if she's got a secret honey jar at home. She says she wishes she did, but no, just a lot of housework waiting. He tells her not to go. He'll take care of her. She asks how he plans to do that. He says this and kisses her. Joo-wan stands in front of the door and asks if he's shaking. Kim tells him to go in. He enters the room and greets the chairman. The chairman says if he's going to greet him, he should finish the sentence. Joo-wan says maybe the timing was off and he'll come back later. The chairman tells him to sit. He's the one who called him, and the tea will be out soon. Joo-wan says it's nice to see father and son bonding over tea in the morning. The chairman replies that it looks good. Seeing 3 generations sitting together is rare, and asks his son if he agrees. Joo-wan's father says he heard there was trouble at the hotel. Joo-wan says word travels fast, even across the world. His father says maybe he wasn't meant for it after all, and they should just hope the next mistake isn't worse. Joo-wan says he took a failing hotel and brought it back to life. Now they want to take it too. He asks the chairman why he keeps setting up these awkward meetings. He says getting upset this early won't help anyone. The chairman says to look at him, calling himself a businessman. Maybe they didn't raise him completely wrong. His father says they haven't even started the real conversation. He should sit down and act like he was raised properly. Joo-wan looks at the chairman and says, if the goal was to humiliate him, it's working. He's just worried if he stays longer, people will start calling him an outsider. The chairman says watching them argue is the most fun he's had in weeks. Maybe they'll actually get along one day. Joo-wan says he'll come back another time and walks out. The chairman watches him leave and says the kid doesn't seem like the type to cause real trouble. His son says no matter what, he's not putting Joo-wan on the family register. The chairman reminds him that it's his register too. His son calls him chairman, but the chairman says Joo-wan is his blood, and it bothers him that he still uses another name. If it bothers a grandfather, it should bother a father more. In the car, Joo-wan looks frustrated and says the whole thing made him angry. Kim asks if it didn't go well. Joo-wan says not even close. Kim asks if the chairman was there too. Joo-wan nods and asks if he has anything important on the schedule. Kim says no. Joo-wan says he's skipping work today. He suddenly misses his mom. Sojin is at work. She notices she hasn't heard from Joo-wan all day and wonders if something's wrong. Then she gets a message. It's from Sarang, asking if she can meet. Sojin walks into a restaurant. Sarang welcomes her, and they sit down. Sarang says she needed to ask something. She wants to know what's going on between Sojin and Hyun-jae. Sojin tries to respond, but Sarang cuts in. She asks if the Jin that Hyun-jae keeps calling is her. She says she knows it's a lot to ask, but he won't take her calls. He's avoiding her completely. Her parents are angry and telling her to end it. Sojin tells her to breathe and calm down. Sarang apologizes, saying she's never gone through something like this. Sojin gives her a glass of water. She thinks to herself that someone who's lived her whole life gently like a flower in a greenhouse is now learning what it feels like to be left behind by the man who stayed by her side for more than 10 years. Sarang thanks her and says she feels a little better. Sojin tells her that she and Hyun-jae were together for over 10 years. Sarang looks shocked and asks what she means. Sojin says she doesn't know when it started. But it looks like he was seeing both of them at the same time. She first found out the day she came with him to meet the CEO. He must have wanted to avoid the truth, just like he's doing now. That's always been his way. Sarang asks if that means Sojin was first, if that's why she quit her job. Sojin says yes. Sarang remembers the last time she saw her in front of the office when she was with Hyun-jae. She says Sojin looked her in the eye and acted like nothing was wrong, like she didn't know anything, and now she realizes it was all fake. Just then, Hyun-jae walks in and asks Sarang what she thinks she's doing there. In the car, Kim tells Joo-wan that if he's going to slack off, he should do it alone. Joo-wan says if the boss is stepping out, of course the secretary has to tag along. What kind of president drives himself? Kim says he's only putting up with him because he respects his mother. Joo-wan thanks him. They walk into the restaurant. Kim looks around and says it hasn't changed, it's still packed, even on a weekday. Joo-wan says the food's good, that's why. An older woman calls his name. She asks why he came without calling first. He greets her as his mom and gives her a hug. She notices Woo-jin and he bows politely. Joo-wan tells his mom she should leave the counter to the staff and rest. There's no need to work out front. She says a boss can't disappear from their post and tells him to eat. He says he came to eat her food. Kim watches them quietly. He asks if they're using the second floor now. Wasn't that just storage before? Joo-wan says it's been like that for a while. The smell of food already has him hungry. His mom brings the food herself. Joo-wan says she didn't have to bring it. There are 2 grown men sitting right here. She could have just called them. Kim stands up and thanks her, saying he'll take care of it. Joo-wan says her cooking keeps getting better. She asks if he's going through something. He starts coughing. Kim says he got scolded by the chairman. She asks why. Joo-wan says it wasn't really scolding, just complaints about wanting to see his grandson. Then he glares at Kim and asks why he talks so much. Joo-wan changes the subject and asks his mom if it's corn harvest season. She says it is, but she hasn't gotten to it yet. He says he and Kim will help with it today. An employee walks in and says she might need to step outside for a moment. His mom says she'll be out soon and tells them to keep eating. She leaves. Kim asks what he meant by corn. Joo-wan says he's just helping where he can. Kim asks if he's serious, using his secretary like a farmhand. Joo-wan says no one called him a secretary today. He came as a friend, got a free meal, now it's time to earn it. If he's done eating, they should get going. Meanwhile, Hyun-jae steps into the restaurant and asks Sarang what she's doing. She says she couldn't reach him no matter how hard she tried, but now that she's here, at least they've met. He pulls her away, saying they need to talk. She tells him she's not finished talking to Sojin. She yells at him to let go. Sojin tells both of them to stop. Hyun-jae apologizes to her and says he'll call later, but she says not to bother. She won't answer. He drags Sarang outside and into the car. He tells her to put on her seatbelt. She asks if he has anything to say. He asks what she expects him to say. She pushed him too far. She asks how that's her fault when he's the one who was too timing. She says finding out she was never the first, realizing she was the other woman the whole time, hurt more than anything. Then he just disappeared. Meanwhile, her parents are furious and pressuring her to break up. She asks if he understands how hard this is. He says, so what? Is she breaking up because they told her to? She says that's not it. Who said anything about breaking up? He says she feels bad about being the second woman. Her parents are angry, and it sounds like she wants out. Fine, they'll break up. She says, does he even remember how little time is left until their wedding? He's just scared. She refuses to end it. She says they just need space. He tells her to do what she wants. Sojin is walking when Joo-wan comes up and grabs her hand. He asks if she's done for the day. She jumps and says he scared her, showing up like that after ignoring her all day. He asks how long she waited for his call. She says she doesn't know and pushes him away. He tells her to wait, but she keeps walking. From across the street, Hyun-jae sees them. He watches and says she can't just smile like that in front of someone else, especially when that someone isn't him. Sojin and Joo-wan sit together at a restaurant. She asks if he went to see his mom today. He says he just missed her. She asks if something happened. He says he visited his grandfather and father that morning, and they already knew about the fight at the hotel. She asks if that's what's been on his mind since. He remembers what both his parents said. He says it's strange how two people can feel so differently about the same child. People always say the hardest question is who you love more, mom or dad. She says for her, it was always her dad. No question. Even though he's not around anymore. Joo-wan says then he can admit he prefers his mom much more than his dad. She smiles and asks if they can toast to that. For the first time in a while, they feel calm. After everything that happened that day, just being together now makes all the stress disappear. As they walk, Sojin tells him he doesn't need to walk her home since she lives nearby. He says it's still dangerous out at night. What if something happened? She points at her place and says she could hit it with a rock. She'll be fine. He says he knows. They stop at her door. She asks if he's thinking of coming in. He asks if she's inviting him. She laughs and says she's joking. He should go home. He kisses her. She lets him in. He says sorry for the intrusion. She says compared to his luxury suite, this place must feel small. He says it smells like her, and he likes it. She tells him to sit while she gets him something to drink. He says to take her time. He looks around and sees a framed picture. He asks if the child in it is her and if that's her dad. She says yes. He says her dad was a good-looking man and that she takes after him. She says people have told her that. He notices how close her place is to the hotel and asks if she moved here because of work. She says that once she got the new job, finding a nearby place was her first move. He asks if she really planned to quit and leave all this behind. She says they should move on from that. He's not planning to leave now anyway. He says that's the right mindset. He asks if there are any available units in her building. He wants to move in too. She laughs and says there's no way he could live in a place this small, and besides, he already has his fancy suite. He says she once said suites felt inconvenient, and honestly, he prefers staying in with her rather than hotel dates. She says it's not about the suite. It's about not wanting anyone to find out. He asks if it's okay to move things forward. She asks if she says no, would he really stop? He says no, and they kiss. The next morning, Sojin sits on the bus when she gets a message from Joo-wan. He says he's bored. She replies that they just saw each other yesterday and tells him she's meeting a friend at the mall, so he should find something else to do. At the mall, Jinju spots her and hugs her. Sojin asks her to wait a second. Jinju says she just wanted to see her friend's face a little early. Sojin asks if she took long. Jinju says not really and tells her they should go inside. Elsewhere, Joo-wan says Sojin is being a bit cold. like she's just going to walk off and leave him like that. He calls Kim and asks what he's doing, then tells him to come hang out. At the mall, Sojin jokes about Jinju working on her day off. Jinju says it's annoying, but today she's just a customer and wants a good discount. Sojin says she bought a scarf for her mom since fall might be chilly. Jinju asks when she did that. Seojin says when she went to the bathroom. Jinju says she's thoughtful. Her mom will love it. Then she looks at Seojin and says she seems like she's in a really good mood. Her face is glowing. She asks what's going on. Seojin smiles and says, "Who knows?" Jinju wants to know her secret. Meanwhile, Kim looks around and asks why they're at a department store. He thought Joo-wan said he was buying something good to eat. He asks if they're really going to eat at the food court. Joo-wan says food courts are actually great these days. Kim says there's no way he's eating at a mall food court with the company president on a weekend. Joo-wan says Kim has no one else to hang out with anyway. He asks if he needs any skincare, then leads him to the skincare aisle. A saleswoman welcomes Joo-wan and asks if she can help. He says he wants to buy a gift, maybe a perfume. She recommends a popular one. He says he'll take it. She asks if he wants it wrapped, and he says yes. Back with the girls, Jinju says she'll get some sneakers for Chan-woo since his shoes are worn out. Sojin says he actually wore them out before getting bored of them, which is rare for kids these days. Kim asks how long they plan to keep shopping. Joo-wan says they might as well enjoy it. Then he spots Sojin. Sojin quickly tells Jinju to watch their stuff, says she's going to the bathroom, and drags Joo-wan with her. She asks what he's doing there. She wants to know if this is a coincidence. He says it can be whatever she prefers, either fate or just a random meeting. She tells him she's with her friend and he shouldn't just show up like this. He asks if it's a close friend and says it's a great time to introduce him. She says they're not at that stage yet where they bring each other into their friend circles. Jinju and Kim reach for the same shoe at the same time. She says she grabbed it first. He says it was at the same time. A store clerk walks over and asks if they need help. Jinju asks for that model in size 285. Kim says he needs the same size. She looks at him and says his feet must be huge. He just nods. The clerk comes back and says they only have the display pair left in that size and asks if they want to order. Jinju asks what he thinks they should do. Kim says they both grabbed it at the same time and jokes about deciding with rock, paper, scissors. She asks if he really wants that exact pair, even though she picked it first. He says yes, now that she wants it, he wants it even more. She says he can have it. She's feeling generous and doesn't like display pairs anyway. Meanwhile, Joo-wan stares at Sojin. He asks her to repeat what she just said. She says again that they're not at a stage where she introduces him to her friends. He asks why not, they're close enough. She replies they're close, but they're not dating. Just being physical doesn't mean they're a couple. She calls it something casual. Joo-wan asks if he crossed a line by asking to meet her friend. She says that's not what she meant, and she would never say something like that to him. He asks if that means she's just his boss and he's just her employee. She tells him to let her explain, but he says there's nothing else to hear. He walks away. Outside, Kim looks down at the shoes in his hands and wonders if he should return them. Just then, Joo-wan comes out. Kim asks if they can go. Joo-wan says yes. Kim notices the gift wasn't given and asks if something happened. Joo-wan says women are impossible to figure out. Kim agrees and says they're a mystery. Sojin meets Jinju and asks if she got the shoes for Chan-woo. Jinju says someone else grabbed them first, so she had to get another pair. She swears she touched them first, but this guy insisted they got them at the same time. The next day, Seojin tries to greet Joo-wan, but he ignores her. The same thing happens the day after that, and the day after that. Kim enters his office with a document and tells him it needs a signature. Joo-wan accuses him of singing. Kim says he was humming a little, and jokes that he's in a good mood because he has a date. Joo-wan says he didn't ask and tells him to leave. Kim asks if the date will go well. Joo-wan says not a chance, and Kim laughs, saying thanks for the bad luck. Later, Kim sits nervously in a restaurant. Jinju walks up and greets him. She says she's his date. They both fall quiet. She notices his shoes and says he's wearing the pair from that day. He confirms. She thinks the date already feels awkward. He says they should just get dinner. He suggests chicken feet and soju. She says she knows a good place. Meanwhile, Seo-jin wonders if Joo-wan is still mad. He hasn't looked at her, called, or messaged in days. She thinks back to what she said and wonders if she had to put it that way. But deep down, she knows she's not ready to fully love someone yet. Just then, she sees Hyun-jae. He walks up and tells her he needs to talk. Just once. Even if it's the last time, he wants her to hear him out. Jinju looks at the food and says it looks amazing. Kim tells her to wait just a little longer. It's almost done. He gives her a bite and asks her to try it. He hopes she likes it. She smiles and thanks him for the meal. Hyun-jae asks Seo-jin if they can talk. She says this is the last time. He thanks her. They sit in his car. She asks where they're going, but he won't tell her. He says she'll understand when they get there. They arrive, and she looks around. He says it's where they first met. Flashback to high school. He finds her sitting alone, calls her the new kid, and hands her a drink. She says she likes it and thanks him. He says she looked pretty back then. Back in the present, she asks why he brought her there. He asks if she remembers the drink. She used to love it, though it's hard to find now. She says it's true and takes a sip. He tells her he broke up with Sarang. She starts coughing and asks what he just said. He repeats it. He chose her. She asks if he's lost his mind. She says it's over. He says it can't end this way and holds her hand. Then he asks if they can eat. He's starving. They go to a restaurant. She sits across from him, wondering how 10 years can't be shaken off like nothing. She tells herself she should be done with him by now, but here she is, still listening. He asks how the place is still around. She used to love the spicy rice cakes. He asks if she thinks they taste the same. She says she'll eat and then leave. He says, of course, she should enjoy it. Meanwhile, Jinju and Kim are at karaoke singing love songs to each other. She notices he's crying and asks why. He says he's just so lonely. She asks when his last relationship was. He says it's been forever. She tells him not to cry, says men only cry 3 times in their lives. He says she doesn't understand the solitude of a man, the loneliness of a warrior. She laughs and tells him to stop. She says if he's lonely, she'll keep him company, and they kiss. Sojin thanks Hyun-jae for the ride. She tells him not to look for her again. Her feelings haven't changed. He asks why she's being so cold, how she can throw away 10 years like it's nothing. She says he threw it away first and tells him to go back to Sarang. Just then, Joo-wan walks in and says she's working late again. Earlier that night, Joo-wan thinks to himself that he can't keep going like this with Sojin. He wants to fix things. He wants to hold her close and apologize. He goes to find her, but when he arrives, he sees her and Hyun-jae arguing. He comments that she's working late again. She's surprised to see him. Hyun-jae asks if they're now visiting each other's homes. Joo-wan says that's not his business, and right now she needs to come with him for some overtime. She's confused, but he pulls her away. Hyun-jae watches and wonders what's wrong with the both of them. Sojin tells Joo-wan they should talk, but he walks up to the front desk and books a deluxe room. The receptionist offers to help with the payment. Joo-wan takes her inside. She says they should talk first, but he kisses her. He tells her to say whatever's on her mind. She looks at him and wonders why he suddenly feels unfamiliar, like someone she doesn't recognize. He asks if she has nothing left to say. He says, maybe that's just how it is. Casual relationships don't come with explanations. Sharing personal thoughts is for real couples. And if there's nothing to talk about, then they should just stick to the roles they've chosen. Joo-wan asks if she just woke up and tells her she can sleep a little more. She asks him where he's going, and he says his duty is over and she should take care of herself. He'll see her at the office. She stares at the door after he leaves, thinking this is exactly what she wanted him to do. So why is she acting like this? The man who used to stay by her side every moment after they spent the night together just left without a word. Only then does she finally realize what she's done to him. She thinks she's being foolish again, acting like she didn't know what this meant. Meanwhile, Joo-wan stands outside the door, waiting and hoping she'll come out. Jinju walks up and sees Kim. She remembers what happened last night. He wakes up and greets her when she says good morning. She thinks she made a mistake. She tells him the place is nice, and he's relieved she thinks so. He says she knows a lot of restaurants and jokes that he's jealous. He says good food was the only thing that kept him going, especially after he started spending more time alone. She remembers what he said the night before. He asks if they should order boiled pork too, and she wonders if that's a bit heavy, but they both laugh. He ends up ordering the small portion, and she tells him to just get the large one. Sojin walks down the street when she gets a call from her mother. Her mom reminds her that it's her birthday and suggests she at least call him or even go to dinner. Sojin suddenly gets serious and asks who her father even is. She says if someone leaves his wife and child and pretends they don't exist, it's not right to just ask her to show up like nothing happened. Her mother says it's not like that and that he really wants to reconnect. Sojin asks what he's planning to do with her now and tells her mother never to call again before hanging up. She remembers playing with her dad when she was a little girl. Joo-wan sees her from across the street and notices something's wrong. He walks up and asks if she's okay, but before she can answer, she faints in front of him. If you're eager for the next chapter, drop a comment expressing your interest in a part 3. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated. Until next time, ciao.